Good afternoon, gamers, and welcome to episode number 100 of Games with Dave. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by the one and only Stefan Surratt from Dragon Peak Publishing. You may know Stefan from one of his very well-produced newsletters, his reviews, or one of his amazing adventures or scenes that he's created for one of what I think I figured out 9 systems you've created stuff within.
It sounds about right.
And I shouldn't say currently, in 87 days, if I recall looking at the page this morning, he has a new DCC campaign path coming out, the Conquest of Chaos, which you can find a link for in the description to follow along and get notified when it launches.
Yeah.
And it's going to pit you against giants, demons, and other primal forces of chaos. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm super excited to have you on. I've been saying for what I think about 2 months that I had to reach out to you and get you on the show. And it finally happened. So I'm excited.
And I'm excited to be here for episode 100. You sent it in an email earlier, and I remember from like a stream or two ago, you were like, I think this is episode 100. But it's me. It's me.
Yeah, it is you. So, the one kind of, I guess you'd call it icebreaker / generic question I always ask everybody when I get them on is, what system got you started in role-playing games?
Yeah, it was D&D 3.0.
Nice.
I think I'd heard the name Dungeons and Dragons a little bit, but it led from the video games Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which is the 3.0 rules with the veneer of Star Wars over it, and they're really fun games. One of my friend and it was like one of those games, big role-playing thing, a classic BioWare kind of age. And one of my buddies actually paid attention to the little blurb that pops up at the beginning that says like, this is done using Dungeons and Dragons, using the OGL. And read that instead of just hitting a button and skipping over it. Told me about it. It was like, hey, we don't have to just play this game over and over again. We can make up our own stories, apparently. We just have to buy this, but it's fantasy. And I was like, I like fantasy. Lord of the Rings is sweet. Yeah. I read 1,000-page paperback epic, fantasy stories. And so we played the 3.0 box set. I think 3.5 was out, but he got the 3.0 because it was on sale, because it was now the last thing that doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
And I did not make it through that first session. When I got there and I wanted to be the wizard, I couldn't because someone else already grabbed it. I looked at the fighter and the rogue. The fighter seemed kind of cool, but the rogue had that huge list of skills, which at the time was very appealing to me. I was like, I can do anything. So I was Lydia the Halfling Rogue, playing a short girl for my first session. Was not not that cool for like 14-year-old me, but I wanted those skills. And I got trapped in a magic mirror for the rest of eternity, trying to get someone else out. But I got drawn in, and I had to give my character sheet back to the dungeon master. And then it was, well, do you want to stay for the rest of the session? I think I stayed for like one more room, but in my mind, it was like a board game. And I thought we would try it again next week with the people who didn't succeed. So I was like, no. And I lived like a street over. So I walked home just thinking about like, what can I do next time we play this same scenario? That never happened. We started making up new stuff the following week, and I basically never stopped thinking about gaming ever since.
That's kind of a bummer to get trapped in a mirror for your first session and be like, I'm done.
Yeah, well, it's like, here's my character sheet back. I have to give it up now.
I'm going home.
Yeah, that's what happened.
So how did you discover all these other systems from like DCC, MCC? Which was the first one, I guess, would be the real way of asking it.
The first other system was Vampire the Masquerade. There was a big kind of community around it. I live in Texas, and there's like a big kind of LARP vampire club called The Church in Dallas. I was too young to ever go to it when it was a thing. Well, probably not. I was probably old enough at some point, but I never went to it. But there's kind of like, it was just kind of like in the ether of the game stores, people talking about vampire. So played a little bit of that, played some like Mutants and Masterminds, and I had a buddy who was like into GURPS. So, you know, I was still into like the high school, you know, all of high school was playing D&D for me, but also these other systems. And then I started really branching out basically after I ran a really long 3.5 campaign. I like homebrewed and used athis.org to do a Dark Sun campaign and went from like
nice.
up to like level 13 or something. And I was doing all the homework to make sure like their, you know, the challenge rating was appropriate for their levels. And this is how much experience they have for that. I was doing like all that stuff. And the way I kind of put it is like, I know how the sausage is made. I made the sausage. I don't want any more sausage. After that, I didn't want to play 3.5 anymore. I was so done with it. And like that was like probably around 2009 or 10 or something. So, and I was online, I was going, hey, this Osric thing that just came out, but no, I can't get my buddies to do like Descending Armor class. I'd try it out. I want to see what D&D used to be like. But then it was like 4th edition for a little while and 5th edition. And then I ran at a certain point, I ran a 1 to 25th edition campaign. And again, I didn't want to run 5th edition or play 5th edition anymore after that. And by that, and about halfway through that campaign, I'd played other things, gone to a few conventions, but about halfway through that campaign, I had discovered Dungeon Crawl Classics. And so like some of the upper level adventures in that, you know, at like level 14 or something, I described the cover of the 8th level DCC Adventure Colossus Arise.
Nice.
Of like, yeah, there's some reports of a headless 100-foot tall Titan wandering through the desert, and you guys just finished up the, you know, all the Against the Giants stuff, and I'm kind of prepping you to do some spell jamming nonsense. But they went 100-foot headless Titan. Like, let's go do that right now. I was like, oh crap, I have not actually read this adventure, and I'm like converting an 8th level DCC to 14th or 15th level 5e on the fly, reading the adventure for the first time. Oh, wow. But I'm going like, all right, well, hey, I wanted to run this, so you know, let's not look this gift horse in the mouth and do it, and so DCC and all the other things, I really dig, you know, seeing how systems and how something is put together really helps influence a game and the game culture around it and the kind of stories that you tell in it. So now, you know, I'm just like so many other folks with way too many books on my shelf, telling myself, I don't need another system. Ooh, but this one does something neat. Maybe I've got lots of years left in my life. Maybe one day.
Well, all the books are great for cherry picking things from, you know, it's like, because there's no way I'm ever going to play all the games I have on my shelves in my lifetime. I mean, it's possible, but I keep adding to it, you know, like I was in that same spot, like I'm done. And then X-Crawl Classics pops up, and I'm like, all right, I'm done after that. And then
oh, I don't have something like that, but then the next something.
Yeah, appears. You know, and then it was like, I'm trying to think of what that Monty Cook game, the Appalachia.
The Old Gods of Appalachia.
Yeah, that came out, and I saw that, and I'm like, well, I got to get that. And now he's got another new one out, and I'm just like, dag nabbit. And it's like, it never stops. It's endless. So how did you end up making the transition from player to doing everything you do, from reviews to interviews to design and layout? And
well, the first game I ever ran went horribly. It was a Star Wars Saga Edition game, and none of my friends who'd ever played the system before, it was like brand new at the time. And I tried to not prepare too much because I'd heard that was good advice. Don't over prepare. Let your players do things and react to them. So I kind of had this outline of what the adventure was going to be like, but I was not capable of improvising to the level that I needed to for that.
Gotcha.
Don't over prepare advice to actually work for me. And then I didn't run anything for like 2 or 3 years. And then I did my Dark Sun campaign, which was a lot of over preparing. But I needed to kind of like, for me, I had to do that for a while before I like, really found my sea legs with DMing. But so I'd been creating and homebrewing my own adventures for years before I ever ran anything published. I think in the first like decade of me playing or running, just like anything involved in the hobby, how my friend group was, I think we might have played 4 like published modules. And some of that was from not having availability near us to, thinking, oh, well, why would I need something bespoke that's made for me and my group, and having kind of a false air of superiority by doing that. And but so I've been creating stuff for a long time, and had like, I remember in the 4E days having these dreams like, well, maybe if I convert my Dark Sun campaign to 4E, and they're still taking submissions for their online magazine, maybe Wizards would publish me in my Dark Sun thing. They have a 4E Dark Sun thing, that got like 1 or 2 books of support. Maybe that appealed to them. But so I'd always like wanted to like do writing. I remember being like 18 and being like, that's my dream job. So I mean, it really kind of came from that of this is the dream job for me. It's not paying my bills by any means, but that'd sure be swell if it did. Until that point, if it ever comes, I'll just do it because I find it really fun. I love the hobby, and I want to not just be a consumer within the hobby. I just have that part of me, and I think like everyone who's in this hobby is naturally creative to some extent.
Yep.
So we're all a little bit like that. It's just like, well, do you care? Do you like have it in you to like do the extra step of like polishing something and making it so that it actually looks appealing to other folks and not just your group? Because it's a whole different variety of skills that you need, of course.
Well, I'd say you definitely do. Like Elfland was a fantastic zine.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I've got a lot more of your stuff that I've got to pick up, but I've seen some of the PDFs. I'm a physical guy. I've got like comic long boxes full of zines that, yeah, I love physical stuff. And now you've made me wonder if you're like me and would love to see Athos make a comeback in some system, in some fashion.
Well, I don't know that Wizards would do it. So I know Tim Brown, one of the creators of Dark Sun, he has his legally distinct spiritual successor, Dragon Kings. That released for, I think, a bespoke system like about 10 years ago, something like that. There in January, there's going to be, I don't have a link for it right now, but in January, there's going to be like a crowdfunding for a reprinting of that. And I've been told and been a part of, as a player, play test. And, I'm just like sitting here like on the bench of like, I'm ready, coach. If you ever need me, I'm ready, coach. Of like one of the stretch goals, the plan is to do a DCC conversion of Dragon Kings.
Oh.
So that it's not Dark Sun, but you're gonna get all. It's gonna scratch all those itches.
Yeah, like I was so bummed with when I did finally see the 4E version of it and their support for it, and I was like, dude, you guys used to have like a box set and like 6 books that went with it. What happened?
That was how I found out about it, but then I was like 4E wasn't really, vibing with me and my group. We tried it for a while, but it was athos.org, fan-made conversions for 3.5. That's what we went to. And there was so much more fan-made support, of course, than there was official.
Interesting. I've got like some of the stuff because I wasn't playing in like the 3.5 era. or the 3.0 era, I haven't heard of. So I'm making little notes over here of everything I've got to check out. And because I loved Athos, and yeah, it was just great. So to me, at least.
Well, and it was so like it transformed my murder hobo group of friends to people who like wanted to do something because they were like, this world sucks so much already. We got to do something about it, guys. It's not just generic fantasy world number 8 that we play in after we abandon another campaign. Like they had to deal with consequences because it was an actual long-term campaign. And it was, it fixed their murder hoboism.
Nice. Well, it is. It's such an oppressive world that in many different facets that you're just like, wow, this place kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Let's fix it.
Oh, we can't fix it. Maybe we can do a little something though.
Yeah. Yep. What is your process for reviews? Because I love your reviews. And do you work off like notes, or do you just have an unbelievably, impossibly good memory?
No, it's so the Arwen. I just did one for Arwen's Challenge, third-party DCC thing, and that's an adventure that I ran like 2 years ago. So it's really working off of memory, but also like rereading. Like, okay, I remember these rooms. This was really fun, and just mostly remembering. But if I do a review for something on there, it's got to be something I've either played or run. I mean, you can review things as someone who's just read a book, but if it's one of these game books, like I think anyone who's run enough games has found like an adventure module where it's like, this runs better than it reads. Like reading it's all right. Yeah. Hey, okay, I can make it work at the table, but something happens when you actually like present those situations to the players, and it comes alive in a way that it doesn't on the page. So, I only do stuff I've either played or run because I want to have that level of insight to it.
Nice. So you've got the new campaign path coming out.
Yeah.
The Conquest of Chaos. I don't know how much you want to talk about it this far ahead.
Yeah, I'm fine talking a whole lot about it, and the exact date on that Backerkit might change, but it's a little too late in the year to try something out. For November and December are hard crowdfunding months. No one's looking for something they're going to get 6 months away. They want something they're going to have for Christmas, of course.
Right.
Or, stuff to get for other people for Christmas. So it's going to be sometime in January, exact date, a little bit TBD. But yeah, it's really inspired by, my love of the GDQ adventure path, and mostly from those, the Against the Giant stuff. Like I love those. And that adventure path was part of my like 1 to 20 5e campaign. It was like about 75% of that campaign was classic TSR modules that I was updating. Mostly finding the like classic modules today updates on DM's Guild, where someone else has already done the statistical updating for me. And that I did that for like the Village of Hamlet. I did it all myself. And then I found out someone's already done this. I don't have to spend hours of work.
That's always nice when you find that.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the Giants campaign. So this is very much kind of like a DCC-ified thing, but it started off with the third level adventure was the first one I ran. And it was like an island full of sea giants, and a very kind of like, they're all drunk and partying. And so even though like it's an island with hundreds of giants, like any single combat with like 2 or 3 of them can get deadly fast. But it's easy because they're not expecting anything. They're expecting except a good time. It's easy to like have some shenanigans and, pull the wool over their eyes, get a disguise, get out of there quick, because if you've ever been drunk and tried to chase somebody, yeah, it's not working great. And even if you're a giant, that's going to be true. So it started there, and but then I was like, I kind of had an idea for a second Giants adventure, And then I was like, well, I gotta have 3 then, hey, let's just like, have that homage to the classics. And then I had like a level 1, 2, and 3 adventure. I was like, okay, well, let's try to figure out a funnel. DCC, we start with the funnel, and then it's okay. Let's tie. Then it kept on growing a little bit, and now it's level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and a whole campaign thing that ends with a big fight at level 5.
That's just crazy to me that you can come up with that much. And I know I say it in almost all my interviews, but man, it's nuts. And yeah,
I didn't do it all at once. Like that level 3 adventure was written like 3 years ago.
Yeah, but still, I can't fathom it. And it's like we were saying before we went live. I think a lot of my issue is not prioritizing it. But yeah, I've got to do it one of these days.
Yeah.
But back to the Conquest of Chaos, because the cover behind you, for one, the image looks very chaotic.
Yeah.
And
is by Peter Mullen, who does a lot of art for Goodman Games. And I, sent him, hey, this is kind of what I want. Here's some like inspiration images, and basically let him go to it. And, he sends me a sketch. And I'm like, that's great. He changed like one thing. Put like a mouth on that crazy monster behind me. Put a big mouth on it. But everything else, perfect. And, some of that is like, okay, a little bit of it, not 100% accurate to the adventure that's most relevant to. A little bit of that I'm changing because I'm going, oh, that's a great idea. And same thing. He's going to do a full page black and white, like interior piece for each of the 6 adventures within there too. So more amazing Peter Mullen art will be there as well. And I like editing's already like 60% done. Like the first editing pass has been done for all the adventures. I'm going to do another to make it polished. They've all been through like playtesting. They're all fully written. The crowdfunding is mostly going to be because art for like 100, which is probably going to be like 160 page book. That's a lot of art and cartography to pay for, and then printing. So like I try to get my stuff as ready as I can before the crowdfunding, but with something this large, I need those additional funds.
Right. Like you were saying, because there's a lot of it that you'll probably even have imagery for in your head after, and whatnot to get it made up. So I get it.
Yeah. No, and I'm sure, a lot of people get it. If you've ever backed a Kickstarter before, you get it.
Yep. And I like, it's weird. I like both the older way that people used to do Kickstarters of funding and then doing everything. But I definitely like getting stuff faster. Which I think a lot of folks do, where like you said, you'll have everything basically with the exception of some art and cartography done. And it'll just be 6 months later, here's a killer book of 6 levels of adventure. So it's going to be interestingly fun.
Yeah. I think at a certain point, everyone, at least if you're kickstarting stuff back in like 2014 or whatever, you got burnt at least once on something that never delivered because the Kickstarter was like, I have a great idea. And at that point in time, that's all you needed on Kickstarter. You just needed a great idea. And it is a little different these days. You gotta put in some more upfront work.
Yeah. I definitely got burned on several Kickstarters back in the day. So it wasn't very nice to have happen.
No.
Boy, I'm trying to think of where to take it next. How did Dragon Peak Publishing come to be? I mean, we kind of talked about it, but
I knew I was gonna need to, pay taxes and things, and the IRS was gonna be like, "Hey, you're making money from what looks like a repeating business venture of the same nature year after year." So I needed to either do a DBA. I did just did a LLC. So Dragon Peak Publishing is, the fancy name for the one-man show. That's me. Yep. My first little adventure that I published was in the 2020 Gong Farmers Almanac, and it was called Dead Dragon Peak. And there's a frozen dragon on the top of a mountain, and the dungeon is the inside of the dragon. Because
really cool.
Rumors that hey, dragons, they got all this gold. Are they eating it? And so rumors that the gold is just like in there. Go and crawl inside this frozen dead dragon. And there's a little bit more to it than that. And it, look for my first thing, ends up being pretty linear. I tried to do a couple of things, but like with any skill, you get better as you do it more. But I have seen it play, other people running it at a couple online conventions. So like, even in like that kind of first year, I was like, all right, hey, I recognize some of my descriptive text for rooms is a little bit too long for, this encounter over here. And hey, I need a little less linearity in an adventure, but I've got something good enough. Other people are liking it enough to run it. And like any skill, you keep doing it, you get better.
Right. Yeah, that is absolutely true. And I noticed that you did an adventure for one of my favorite games, Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. You did Dirty Thieving Nerds.
Yeah, which is a little pamphlet adventure. It's kind of, you got to put those pieces together a little bit. But yeah, it was a fun little thing for one of the jams.
Sorry, I cut you off. Go
ahead. I was trying to remember the name of the jam it was for. It's like Neon Lords Jam 2 Extreme Nacho Cheese Flavor Edition, or had some ridiculous name like that.
As things do with Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. And then another one of my favorites, which you've done even more for, is Mutant Crawl Classics.
Yeah.
I had Jim on, which I don't know if you get to see that episode. And that was a lot of fun to talk about. But you've got the Marvels of the Multiverse and mysteries of
I've got Merchants and Mysteries and Marvels and Marauders just shipped out to people, and I've also got an adventure called The Technomancer of Candy Mountain, and I've got 4 pamphlet adventures as well. So
do you run into Charlie at Candy Mountain? If it doesn't spoil it, then
there's no Charlie on Candy Mountain. There was I had ideas. I thought about having Charlie, some kind of unicorn up there. I thought about it, but I didn't put Charlie in there. There's a little bit of it's a little bit of Willy Wonka, a little bit of the Wizard of Oz, a little bit of Adventure Time's Candy Kingdom. Those are kind of the 3 main ingredients in that adventure. The villain is called Was a Wilder, so
I actually just got to thinking, and I wish my shelf with it were within reach. The first time I remember seeing your name was with Christopher Robin's Nightmare.
Yeah.
Which basically took Winnie the Pooh and turned it on its head.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Let's see, do I have... I have it over here. I've got a stack of them.
Nice.
If the StreamYard, well, no, let's see.
It's going to blur it out. It's like, there we go.
You kind of see Pooh Bear there.
Actually,
there you go. Yeah.
But I remember reading through that, and I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah, it takes place in Christopher Robin's Nightmare, and it's a nightmarish version of not too nightmarish, of the 100 Acre Woods. That, Winnie the Pooh was about to become public domain, or maybe it had just become public domain. I made a joke on the Dungeon Crawlers Discord server about 100 Acre Hex Crawl. And like 10 people were like, dude, you got to do it. And I was like, okay, maybe there is something to that. I'm not doing 100 Acre Hex Crawl though. 100 hexes is way too much. So I made it, but I made a point crawl and had a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My brain is going all over the place with your stuff here today. We talked about the newsletter. Mm-hmm. We talked about Elfland a little bit. Yeah. We talked about Dragon Peak. As I told you, I did a horrible job of note-taking due to circumstances surrounding this week. But you've also made Academia I know I'm saying Arcana,
Yeah.
which is a DCC compatible
Yeah, it's like
wizard
a
school.
wizard. You play as wizard students for the most part, and I've got that's free on Drive Through RPG, and it's like nearly 100 pages on there. It's the all stock art, no editing version. I tried to clean it up as best as I could. A more full and proper version of an edited, that's edited better or not completely stock art version of that. I plan to be the next big Kickstarter or Backerkit thing after the Conquest of Chaos, but it required a little more time and a classic, dungeon crawl adventure path type thing. They're not all dungeon crawls, but the adventures, but a classic adventure path was a little easier for me to find artists that are the right vibe for the wizard school thing. I don't know why. I'm being much pickier with like art setting the correct tone and the art being the style that I want. So it's taken longer, though the editing is actually all done for it. I've got 4 adventures written for it.
Nice.
So it'll come out next year, and yeah, it's got like the classes are like academic wizard, a spell thief, and a soul mage. And it's got, I'd say like half the book is like random tables to help creating your own adventures or hijinks at school and stuff like that, and new spells and adventures and magic items and all sorts of fun stuff. And it'll be like a DCC will help because you'll get more spells, but it'll be like a completely standalone thing. You won't need to have a separate DCC book at the table to play Academia Arcana.
Nice. I did actually say it right, Academia. I know I said Academia. I don't know what I said.
And that'll have some killer art as well too. It's, if you check out dragonpeakpublishing.com, you can go over there and see the art I got by San Julian, which is the original's hanging in my living room right now.
Oh wow, that is a great cover. Dang. So, that's awesome.
Yeah. So covers draw people. A cover will sell a book. It won't get people to play your game, but it'll help sell a book for sure. So and it, it was a pretty good excuse to like get an original San Julian.
Yeah.
It cost a lot of money, but it's a business investment, right? So
right.
It's tax deductible.
That's right too. That's pretty good. I actually got really lucky a few years ago and won an original Larry Elmore piece of art. I've got to get it framed still. It is safely secured in my closet, a box within a box within a box. But he did this piece of art for a game that's still got to deliver for Starfinder, Grimmer Space. And it's of this big like space dragon, and it is so cool. I wish I had thought of it earlier, or that knew that we were going to end up bringing up art, because I would have brought it out to show you, because it's super rad.
That's awesome. I've got like 2 of the 3 complete Elmore books.
Nice.
So
I love his art. Like it's just so realistic looking,
Yeah.
And I think it's from being a kid and having so many books. I'm an old timer compared to you, so.
Yeah. No, I'm in my 30s. I got a kid and a mortgage and all that, but yeah, I'm still young.
I've got a kid in college that's basically going to be graduating college, and a 15-year-old, and I see people with babies, and I'm like, wow, man, that seems so long ago. But back to gaming. What are some of your favorite DCC adventures that you I would say have run multiple times, I guess?
I'm
making you type.
Yeah. I'm like, because you put me on the spot a little bit of just like, okay, I gotta like, I'll mess up the names. I don't want to mess up the names. I would say favorite adventures. I mean, Sailors on a Starless Sea is a classic, and you kind of gotta just say that one, get it out there. And people will have That said, I have my issues with it. It's a little too long for a funnel. I like a shorter funnel. You can complete it in 4 hours, but it's tough.
I would agree.
I'll say The One Who Watches from Below is a really amazing first level adventure. It is so long and pretty deadly for first level, but it's really cool. It has an excellent gimmick to it. And just great classic dungeon crawl as well.
I'm doing the same as you are now. I've got it pulled up because there was one adventure I wanted to ask you if you had played, and it was as soon as I thought of the name, it left my head. And
I'll say I really like from DCC Lankmar. Acting Up in Lankmar is awesome.
Yeah.
That's such a fun one. Like I've played in it and I've run it twice, and if it you know, your kind of love for it a little bit depends on like how into the acting people get, you know. So like one of those 3 sessions for me stands out way more than the other 2. But even those other 2 were really fun times.
I like Lankmar in general, you know, to have Liber brought to life at the table, I think is absolutely phenomenal.
The Lankmar setting is really good. I've played a couple, you know, Lankmar campaign. One was like it was Punjar because I started using the Lankmar stuff for an existing DCC campaign. So we had a couple extra elves and, you know, okay, they're demi-humans, but I've done a lot of city-based stuff, even when it wasn't Lankmar, using the Lankmar content. And it's in the stuff in the box set, like the random tables for the different districts, like those tables, for me, they're like the perfect amount of information. They're short, not overly prescriptive, but still very actionable for coming up with something.
Yeah, it's just enough to be what they are, to plant that seed, you know, and let it germinate in there and grow.
Yeah. I'll say one of my other favorite DCC adventures is the Web of All Torment. That's a Brendan LaSalle horror one that came out a few years ago, and it's got such a great setup. It's like a perfect transition adventure because it starts out with like, you guys retired from adventuring. You know, you found this cozy little town. You started working at the tavern there. Money doesn't matter. You guys you don't even know how long it's been. Every day is great here. And there's like a random table for what job you have. Surprise, you're on the demi-plane of suffering. And it's like Groundhog's Day in hell. And so they got to try to escape. And if things go wrong, you just reset things and have them realize really quickly that things are going terribly. And you know, it's like, oh yeah, you're working in the kitchen. You're serving up a turkey. And then once like they realize the truth of things, is like, yeah, you weren't chopping up a turkey. You're chopping up a person. That's what you've been serving the people out there, who are, by the way, horrible monsters. They're not, you know, Joe from down the street. So it's got like, and then at the end, hopefully they escape the demi-plane of suffering. And where will they end up? It's wherever the judge wants them to be. So I use that at one point to transition my characters who were DCC characters who'd some things happened. They were in Terra AD doing Mutant Crawl Classics adventures. They wanted to go back home, demi-plane of suffering, and then they get outside of the city of Punjar because they managed to escape. But it's a really, really great adventure.
Man, I have never played that one. I don't get to play as much as I would like, and for whatever reason, there's not a huge following for DCC around me.
Yeah.
And I recently made up a poster to run some MCC at the local game store, because I'm like, well, no one else is going to do it. I'm going to have to make time to do it. So, and I can earn my nice belt buckle. So, did you ever play, what was it? I just had the name again. 13th Skull.
Yeah. I ran that one a couple years ago at a one-shot convention.
I love that cover art.
It's a really cool cover.
And I'm assuming you had backed X-Crawl Classics.
I have. Yep, it's coming, and I've got. I don't know that I can reveal what it is. I've got a couple somethings that are going to be an X-Crawl Insider.
Nice, very cool. I can't wait to see it. So,
yeah. And I've got something. I won one of the little spots for something that's going to be in Dungeon Denizens. When that finally comes out, I think it's going to be one of the Kickstarter backer monsters that's only in the Kickstarter backer version. So, but that'll be pretty sweet when it's like, all right, thousands of people will have this book that I have. I do well with hundreds of people on my other stuff, but thousands of people on that one. So I'm excited for that to come out, even though it'll be just the backer only version.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go. I missed that one. I'm gonna have to hit Noble Knight or something to grab one of the Kickstarter versions. But that actually kind of takes me back to something you said earlier. Like, you really are in a way getting to live your dream, although it's not like bags of money falling out of the sky, but it's got to be like so fulfilling, I guess would be the right word, to be able to be like, look at what I've made.
It is, yeah. I mean, hopefully I've got like 8 boxes over in the corner full of stuff I've made.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sure like you got that with 3D printed stuff and all sorts of things.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool, and it's a little like now making another scene and putting it out. It's still exciting and fulfilling. The first time it was new then, so now but I still love it each time.
Yeah, it's got to be the coolest thing, and that's what I was saying to you earlier. Is like, I think that's more my driving force for wanting to get something out there. Is just so I can be like, I finally made something, even though I guess the 3D prints are, but that's not really like, I love doing it, but I really want to get off my backside and make something. And like you were saying, I just got to do it. So.
Yeah.
And I've got plenty of people that have offered to help me with stuff. So it's, I just got to stop being a lazy shit is basically what it boils down to.
Yeah. I was in the pre-show. Yeah. We kind of briefly talked about it. And it was, I think the thing I said is like at a certain point when you're probably an adult, I was already a legal adult. I had to figure out that things don't come to you. It's not like a movie or a story you read where you're just in the right place at the right time and you get that offer for the thing you love. You got to go out and make the opportunity for yourself. And so that's what this is, of like, hey, if I get I'm never going to make crazy money from this, but hey, maybe if I keep working at it, I can retire from the lame day job 5 years early to have a cool day job doing this. That's probably as good as it is going to get. But if I can
still,
get that,
if you get that 5 years extra of doing nothing but writing, and then just build this catalog, which you're already well on your way to doing, I think, of just catalog of awesome stuff. That's so cool. There was one more question I had for you, and I made the mistake of jumping over to the DCC site to see because I was thinking the 13th ring, and I'm like, no, that's not the name of that dummy. And now it's eluding me. I apologize. So you did X-Crawl. Yeah. I think I'll let you fulfill your promise to your wife, and I'll have to have you back on.
Okay.
I don't want to get into stuff with folks on the air, but I've got to have a week where I can really dig in and come up with like the 7-hour chat like Brian Shutter.
All right. I don't know that I can do that one. I'm gonna
you can
like
do
my
it.
Wife and my son banging on the door. My wife like, where are you? And my son will be like, you need to play video games with me.
Dad, come out. Are you still alive in there? Well, all right, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
and I've definitely got to have you back on a week that's less chaotic in my life, and my brain is more high functioning than it is at the moment. So Yeah, but thank you so much for coming on. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, it was brief but fun, and as you said, we'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
Um,
And folks that are out there, we had a few folks tuning in. Thank you so much. And if you enjoyed this, give it a like, maybe subscribe to the channel, head over to dragonpeakpublishing.com, buy a bunch of Stefan's stuff, and let's make him rich so he can retire 30 years early
yeah,
and
and
focus on
go
writing.
over to Backerkit and follow that thing. Backerkit tells me I need like at least twice as many backers before they'll even let me launch. So, I'm hoping the 3-month lead up is going to make that real simple.
Let's give him
But go
5
help me
times
out.
as many as he needs.
Yeah,
Let's help
I
him
don't
out.
I don't know what all the stretch goals or like or like crowdfunding exclusive stuff is going to be, but I'm hoping for some cool stuff. I've got one of the things I want to I'll say one of the things I got like you can have like these foldable mats. This is like an Exalted Funeral
Nice.
one. I'd love to do one that has the cover on the center of it. That seems like it would be a really cool like
That would be a cool one.
exclusive thing.
That would be very cool. Oh, all right, my friend. Well, everybody out there, have a great day, and we will catch you next time.